Hey there, and welcome to the Fiihr Factor, the podcast that shines a light on real stories, smart strategies, and the occasional hard truth about running a business. Think of this as your quick dose of clarity before your first cup of coffee. Let's go. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with David Gomez. He's a best-selling author. He's spoken, well, I don't know, 45 or more countries and helped hundreds or thousands, maybe not millions, but lots of organizations really grow and get the value, get established value with their product and service. How you doing, David?
Hi, Warren. How are you?
I'm good. I don't think I've ever interviewed anybody yet that's been in Colombia.
Well, first time. Great. Yes.
First time. First time. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm super excited about this. I talk to my clients all the time about establishing value and not competing on price. And so first thing I'd love to have you tell me about, I mean, you've written a few books, but the book called Stop Competing on Price, what's that about? I think I know what it's about, but talk to me about that one first. How'd you get started in that? And give me your story.
Yeah. Well, it's basically about demonstrating value, Warren, because I found that one of the you know key things in sales is really being able to demonstrate why you're worth it, why are you a better option than others without discounting, without conceding too much. And I know that sometimes just conceding and giving some alternatives to our customers is part of the negotiation, but most of the time we are not prepared to defend our value, and we end up just conceding too early and too much. So the main idea is just give tools to small business owners, independent professionals, sales teams on how to demonstrate why they are a better option. And the key answer here is be different. When you
Mm.
when you have something that no one else is solving in the same way and you can really demonstrate that to your clients, you become more valuable, and then price is just a perception of value. So the number itself is not the problem, but what the customer thinks they are getting in return of that price. So in the end, price is the variable that has the, the highest impact on profitability. And if you don't handle it well, you know, not a good sign.
Yeah. So first thing is you actually have to have a plan and you have to understand why your product or service is better and why it's worth more to establish that value. So talk to me about something I love this conversation because it's so important for businesses. So talk to me about building out the right unique value proposition.
Every business, every company, everyone has a value proposition. Just as a way to start with it. Some of them are more robust than others. Some are more relevant for the clients than others. But in the end, all of us, we have something that our customers get in return for their money. What we are looking for is that our value proposition should be more attractive to those that we really serve and those ideal clients that we are just trying to attract. Because one of the key things is just understanding that not everyone is a prospect. So you have your own value proposition, which is your business model. This is what I offer. This is what I appreciate. This is what we take care of. This is our post-sale service. These are our guarantees. This is the way we work. So everything that people get when they buy from you, that's the entire value proposition, which is the sum of all the benefits that they are getting in return. Some of them are, you tangible, some of them are not. But in the end, is how you can craft that value proposition to be more attractive than your competitors. Because in the end, we are not usually as different as we think, because we are not very good at researching and understanding our competitors. Sometimes we think that we have something very valuable. We say that we have an amazing service, and guess what? Your competitors also have an amazing service, or something like that. So in the end, it's just making sure that what you have is really not easily replaceable in the eyes of your clients, and then you can defend and healthier margins and healthier prices.
Yeah, that's great. So I mean, I spent a lot of my time in advertising and across many, many different states. And we built commercials and streaming commercials for all kinds of clients. And it's so funny. You got a client and they're doing millions and millions of dollars, and we say, okay, we're going to build this commercial. So let's talk about what makes you different from your competitors. And they invariably they're like, well, we got really nice people and we've been around 20 years and we've got a really good selection. And I'm like, congratulations. That's exactly what your competitor's saying. That doesn't establish anything. Now all I got left is price because I can't compete on anything that makes you special. And even the efficacy of your advertising without a unique value proposition is way, way less. You're not standing out in the
Absolutely.
market.
People think that it's not a matter of exposure, but you need to have something remarkable to say. And that's exactly the point you were saying, Warren, which is sometimes I think that companies are just stuck in telling people benefits, but a benefit is something that works, well for your clients, but your competitors also have those benefits. A differentiator, that unique proposition, is something that they cannot at least say that they have it in the same way. And sometimes we are not strong enough arguing why is that important and why you should care about that. Even if on the surface it looks similar. You were saying, for
Mm.
example, that a company says that we have wonderful people. And that's not the wrong argument by itself. Thing is that it's just the headline. You need to go deeper on why that matters, why my people, my team, why they have more experience and why that matters to you. Why is it important in your specific case? Because we have been dealing with that kind of, challenge that you're facing, and it means that you can talk to the same person throughout the years, different from our competitors. So I have found that usually the problem is not in the headline, but on the explanation of that. Why should I care? And on the surface, all of us will look very similar. But if you explain, in much more detail, I can understand why that is different, even if the others are saying that they have something similar.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And kind of an interesting stat you may or may not know is that with advertising, 47% of the efficacy of the campaign is based on what you write in the copy or say or the video. Like, so a half of it is based on the creative, right? So that getting really honed in on that connection for your ideal customer is so important. By the way, I love the ideal customer because if you're going after everybody, you're not you can't be unique and have a value proposition. But if you know who your ideal customer is and you can really hone in on that, as you mentioned in your book as well, you can really focus in on that. That makes it easier to craft the value proposition. So first you got to know who your ideal customer is, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think in the end is just answering those questions, which is the first one is why you, which is your differentiator, and then who cares about that? Because that's the
Mm.
point. Not everyone is willing to pay what you're charging for those specific benefits. Some of them will say, that's nice, but take them out and just lower your price. Thing is that when you really understand who they are, everything is easier. You just know where they what kind of media they are consuming, where do they hang out, what's important to them, what are their main challenges, pains. So your copy could be more specific and just kind of touching those pain points that that are relevant for them. Even for referrals, what's important for them, which other products or companies are they working with. So there are a lot of clues when you really think about it that will make your life easier instead of just trying to go everywhere and just convince a lot of people that might not care at all.
Yeah. And if you're looking at your customers and you take the Pareto principle and you say, okay, 20% of my customers are worth 80% of my revenue. Well, what is it? Let's look at those 20% and figure out what's important to them, right? And the other ones, the nickel and dime ones and the cheap ones, we want to potentially fire those anyway because you're not going to make any money. They don't have any loyalty. Like those aren't our customers. Our customers are those folks that come in all the time that are loyal to our product or brand or service and that are our cheerleaders out in the marketplace.
And they are also consuming a lot of resources from you, that which is kind of a collateral effect that we sometimes do not see in the beginning. We think that this is just a good business because we have X volume or, amount of sales or something. But in the end,
Mm.
maybe it's not that profitable as we may think. And I've seen many companies just, reducing the number of clients and becoming more profitable because they can just
Yes.
kind of concentrate their efforts in serving better those that really matter.
It's funny. I've had these large sales teams for most of my life, and it's, to get the top seller to give up the bottom 20% of his or her list can be really hard for them to do the first time. And every single time they've done it, they made way more money. There's not one time that it's failed because they're always like, "Oh, but these are my first little baby clients." It's like, yeah, once you give those up, you're gonna land a whale because you're gonna have time to do it. That's gonna actually take you less time, and you're gonna make more money. And it always, always, always happens.
Definitely. And there's a very simple, I would say, practical way to understand who our ideal clients are, which is asking ourselves, you know, I think we all have those kind of clients, which are the ones that really care, that are so grateful, that pay on time, that send you referrals, that buy other products, that are loyal, that you start asking yourself, if I would have 10 more clients like this one, my life would be wonderful. Those that really you would like to have more like them. So understanding who they are, what are their challenges, why they chose you, what are they buying from you, what are the things they appreciate from the relationship, and a lot of things. Really understanding their behaviors will give you a lot of clues to really intentionally look for more like them. I think that the problem sometimes is that we are not intentionally looking for a specific type of client. We are just receiving anyone that is knocking our
Mm.
door because we need the money, we need the sale. So we think that we cannot say no because we need that sale. So being intentional, I think it's part of the game.
That's beautiful. Have you? So I know for a fact that the hardest person to get to raise prices is the business owner. And I don't know if it's, I guess it's a fear of loss factor, or they got imposter syndrome, or what the situation is. But how do you, what do you have to say to business owners about that are afraid to raise their prices?
I think that really understanding why the ones that are buying from you are doing it will give you a lot of self confidence. Sometimes we undervalue what we are offering and we think that if we don't concede or if we increase prices, we will not close the deal because sometimes we just see pricing as a closing strategy, which is very dangerous because of course it works because people would love to pay less, but there's no science on this. But thing is, when you really know your value, when you really know what you're offering and the benefits and how you are making your customer's life easier and how things are working and how you are getting them results, and when you compare yourself with others in the market and you see that you're really doing a great effort, that you are doing something, that they really appreciate, I think that will give you the confidence to really understand that you can charge more because it's not only raising or increasing prices for the sake of it, but because you also need to be aware of who else is in the market, what are they offering, and what's their price. When you just compare that and you say, I'm not charging enough because I'm providing much more value than those that are charging X. That's the kind of, I would say, analysis and understanding that you need to have in order to gain the confidence and say, I can charge more. And there are many ways that you can charge more without looking expensive. You
Yes.
can add other value, other things that do not cost you much, but increase the perception of value, right? Like the
I,
follow up and
yes.
a lot of things. You're an
Yeah. I love
expert on
that.
that.
What's that?
You're an expert on that.
Yes, I love it because I always tell all my customers and clients, it's like, hey, folks, never discount. If you're going to do something, you always add value because the perceived value of what you're adding, people don't know. Their perceived value is probably more than what it costs you because there's margin in the product you're giving them free. And then you didn't discount your ticket price. Your average, at least your average sale stays the same.
Yeah.
Uh, and you gave them something that they felt like they got a great deal, and you still maintain your ticket price. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and actually, I have a tip that I usually talk to salespeople, which is
Yeah.
if you have to discount, because there are certain times when you have to do it, but do it on purpose. And you need to
Mhm.
have a reason and you need to ask for something in return. Even if you're
Yeah.
using it only as a closing tactic, just let the client know that this is not free. And sometimes what you ask for in return is not something economic. Could be, all right, I will give you this, but what about building a case study? What about a testimonial? What about a referral? Or look for other product line that we have? Or what if we just extend the contract for one more year? There are so
Yes.
many ways that you can. And I think that the importance of that is that you are keeping your reputation intact. You are
Yes.
keeping your value because when you discount without, you know, any reason, it sends the message that your original price wasn't the right price. I mean,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
asking for something in return is always a good way just to keep the balance and just tell the customer, the price is right. If I'm considering something, is because I'm getting something in return. And and if in the future I don't have that, you won't get that benefit. That will give you an exit strategy, like in the future, right?
Yeah, because you do lose all trust if you come in and you with one price and then you lower the price and you didn't do any type of negotiation or say, okay, well, if I can do this, I'm going to need better terms. I'm going to need X, Y, Z, or yeah, a review or referral. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're
Actually, that's
excited about
what
this thing, yes. No, that's brilliant. It's funny. I'm thinking about all my clients and all these conversations and thinking about value. And the other thing that people don't realize is depending on your profit margin, you can raise prices and lose a lot of customers and still make more money.
definitely. But why are so business owners afraid of that in your experience?
I, I don't know. I think it's because you started out in a business and you had to like grind and you're worried about making money. And so you were like, oh, I need this deal. So because I need this deal so much, you started discounting and then you got into this habit of just discounting. And then you couldn't get comfortable with the idea. And logically, like I had a clinic I worked with and we didn't even have a deal done yet. I'm like, look, before I leave today, we're going to raise one of your prices. And so it was an exam fee. It's a vet clinic. And so it's an exam fee. And we went from $63 to $75. And you know how complained about the price increase the next month? Zero. So they made an extra $2,000 that went all to the bottom line. I think it was 2,400 bucks, something like that. All went to the bottom line. Nobody complained. And now I love it because they're like, we always kind of competitively shop to see what other, where's everybody else priced. And there's a couple, they're higher than a couple people. And then I'm like, what do you think about that? And they're like, we're not going down. We're going to keep it where it is. And so once you gain the confidence and in fact, you do believe in your value of your service and your superior service and your excellent, and they're great. They're great vets. So nobody cares about 12 bucks. They care about their pet being, cared about and getting good advice and being able to spend time with the doctor, actually looking at my pet instead of just running me through some kind of machine.
Mhm.
What's $12 to your valued family member? It's nothing. It's not even material. So I love the success stories when people actually do it.
And I think that the beauty of that is two things. First, with that money, you can provide a better customer experience. You can improve
Yes.
the experience. You can justify those 12 bucks, just investing $1, just in something else or something like that.
Yes.
And definitely it is a matter of perception once again. And because a lot of companies do a lot of good things and they have very meticulous processes and they take care of their teams, and they have a strong relationship with their vendors, and they have been highly trained, and they have a lot of things that people do not know ever. So sometimes it's a matter of communication. It's just letting people know that the person you are talking to has, I don't know, 25, 30 years of experience and have dealt
Yes.
with 1,000 cases like cures. So we are so prepared. And because those things, unless you tell them, people will not notice.
Right.
And that will justify your price. So you that come from the advertising industry and you know how communication, makes the difference, and the right words and the message. And that's why people sometimes kill the messenger, but it's not the messenger, it's the message, as you said. How important is that? How just letting people know what makes you different, and those behind the scenes beautiful things that you are doing and that makes you relevant, right? They don't sometimes communicate them.
Yes, we undersell ourselves so much, and it's so sad because we got a lot of talent. We got a lot of talented people doing a lot of wonderful things out there, and they're not selling. They're not giving themselves enough credit for the value of their. I'm glad you brought up experience. The value of their experience and depth of knowledge and all the hours of training. You're not paying if it's a per hour basis. You're not paying me just for this hour. You're paying me for 3 decades or 4 decades worth of experience and knowledge and training. That's what you're buying. You're not buying me for an hour, right?
I think that the missing piece there is just explaining why is that important to you. Because sometimes,
Yes.
and I'm afraid that I sometimes make the same mistake, which is only talking about years of experience, for example.
Uh-huh.
But unless I just translate that into why you should, why it matters for your specific case, people won't make the connection, and it's totally understandable because I understand that you have 30 years of experience, but I mean,
So
why is that
what?
important for me? Then
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you go in depth on that, and when we really explain that that experience just, I don't know, you have a system, for example, you have a
Yeah.
structured process, step one, two, and three, and because of that experience, I have that process that can get you results faster than the other way around. So just trying to just rearrange a little bit our narrative, right? Our story, just not only saying that we have X amount of experience or years or
Yes.
whatever, but
Yes. Yeah, for me, it's like, okay, wait, I've ran teams of over 100 people since I was 39 years old. I've lived in all these different states and run $100 million organization. I smashed that experience together with the Action Coach framework, which is the largest global coaching company in the world with 32 years of knowledge and 15,000 businesses a week. And you put that together, that means your business gets more impact faster and the ROI comes really, really quick. That's value.
and you have the experience of all your colleagues all around the world, and you are sharing experiences, so you
Yes.
can benefit from those learnings from your own experience, from those applications and everything, so everyone that is working with you. But that's the point that I think that sometimes we're missing, and just translating that into why this matters to you, right?
And I'm sure for you, it's look, I've been doing this for a long time and I've helped companies make this and this and this much more money just by increasing their value and their average dollar sale and giving their salespeople confidence and giving them the right script tools to be ready to defend the value. Would that be correct?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I would say, just not conceding one discount, how much money is that? And depending on the company, of course, and the type of product or service, but a lot of money.
A
And
lot of
and
money.
and as you were saying, I would say that the main challenge is mindset, not the
Yes.
tools, not the product, not the arguments by themselves, but really trusting that you have a wonderful options, and understanding that selling is serving. And when people connect to that and they feel that their proposal, their product or service or whatever is really help them, everything changes.
I love the mindset. I love that. Okay, so I don't want to keep you too long. Tell me, I want to hear one. I got two things. Well, shoot, I really have a couple questions I got to ask you. First of all, you're in your description here. It talks about how your books are actually uh, they are criteria for schools down in a lot of these countries where they have to read these books because they're that important to the business degree. Is that correct? How do you get that?
Yeah, yeah. Thing is that, especially in Latin America, and especially in Colombia, where I travel a lot. I am from Colombia, of course, originally, but just based in Houston right now. And yes, so that book, Stop Competing on Price, in its Spanish version, was launched 10 years ago, and it became a very important success, especially for business owners and for those studying how you can add value, and for those business careers and programs at different universities. So it ended up just being recommended by a lot of universities and different business schools, just as a very practical way, because in Latin America, we have a lot of textbooks from other countries, especially the US and maybe Mexico or others, but being local and applying a lot of these principles to the Latin American environment and culture and the way we negotiate, and because price is very, very relevant in these markets. So I think it just made a difference, just giving them tools to how can really adapt a lot of the strategies and just being more profitable in the end. Because, and you know this, a lot of small businesses do not make it for the fifth year or so. And one of the things is not only lack of customers, but lack of profitability and lack of cash. So that's why I think it's very important.
All right, so I just gotta say, like, our mission is world abundance through business re-education, and
It's
and
amazing.
you're doing the same thing. It's like, how do we help businesses grow? Because as local businesses grow, it helps our communities, it helps our charities. They build generational wealth. Like that's life changing stuff, and it's so rewarding. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Isn't it fun to see people succeed?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's about sustainability. It's about being able to just doing what you love and being able to live because of that, and have a wonderful life, and being rewarded for that, and just having doing something that really means something to you. And I do believe a lot in having a purpose, not only in life,
Yes.
but also doing what you do. And similar to your experience, I used to work in corporate for 15 years, and then I just started my own company 16 years ago. And I would say that my main driver from the beginning up to now is how can I help others just to succeed, just to do better, just to have healthier businesses, how to have more prosperous business lives, and everything related to that.
It's beautiful. Okay, so
Yeah.
three quick questions for you. They're not very serious. So, if you were gonna be an animal, what kind of animal would you be?
Actually, a dog, because in the Chinese calendar, I'm a dog. So
Okay.
Chinese year's starting one of these days, right? I think so. Anyway, but yes, a
Okay, I like it. And what do you want to be when you grow up?
prolific writer.
I love it. Well, you're already doing that.
Kind of. Still working on it. A lot of
Okay.
work to do.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And when you're gone, what do you want to be remembered for?
I don't know. Be happy. Just smile. I love to do it, and I think that's very important. Just someone that just gave joy and shared with others. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, make people smile. Yeah, you got great energy. I'm sure you do it all the time, and you're changing lives by helping people with value. And I know it's you got another book called "It's the Small Things." So hey, folks, if you want to check out these books, David Gomez, you're a great guy. I hope we get to have lunch sometime when you're back in the
Absolutely.
Houston area. I
We
would love to
will.
do that.
Great.
Perfecto. Hey, David, I thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom and insight, and thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Warren, for having me. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Liked what you heard? Let's make it real. Schedule your free coaching session today at sugarland.actioncoach.com.